Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another edition of the Happy Camper Radio Show, the only place to be when you're ready to talk camping. Camping is what we're about. Camping is all we talk about. It's episode 168, and on the program today, are you an individual who enjoys talking politics? I don't mind a good political conversation every now and then with friends and people I'm close to, but is it appropriate to talk politics at camp? I'll tell you why that's a topic you ought to stay away from on this edition of Happy Camper Radio.
Happy Camper Radio. Happy Camper Radio.
And you can get in touch with us here at the Happy Camper Radio Show anytime by calling 404-537-2267. That's 404-537-CAMP. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to www.happycamperradio.com. You'll find all of our social media icons right there on the homepage. Click on any one of them. You'll connect right up with us. Take the studio tour. See what we've got going on behind the scenes. A lot of good camping tips, a lot of good useful information anytime you visit happycamperradio.com. The Happy Camper Radio Show can be heard all around the world by great listeners just like you. You can find us in the iTunes Store and Podbean, Myra Guide, Stitcher, the BlackBerry Podcast Directory, iHeartRadio, and now on Google Play Music. Tell your friends to tune in to Happy Camper Radio today. Right now, I want to go over to my shout-out window and welcome some newcomers to the program, some folks who recently signed up with us on social media. Let's say hello to them. Brentley M. Pryben of Greensboro, North Carolina. Kristen Carrier. Paul M. Schmidt of Nevada City, California. They like us on Facebook. To the friends over at Harvey Publishing in the United Kingdom, Lori the Camping Gypsy. Also to AJ Play LLC in Oregon. They're following us on Twitter. And finally, to Sarah Lemaster. She subscribed to our YouTube channel. Thank you all so very much for joining us. Glad to have you on board, and more importantly, thank you for being a part of this great Happy Camper Radio family. Would you like to be a guest on the program? Get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. We'll make sure that we get you on the show. As you know, I have been a little quiet here at the Happy Camper Radio program, and the reason for that is, if you haven't been following us on social media, just recently, we lost a couple of our very beloved pets here at the house. Lori and I have been, I got to say, a little devastated. And for the most part, I have not been in quite the mood to get behind the microphone. And compiled with that, I've also really haven't taken a break from the program since we got started almost 4 years ago. So it's been a little bit of a difficult time. You know, I am a real advocate of pet adoptions. I talk about that all the time on the program. We have several adopted pets that we have here at the house. Every one of them needed a home when they were adopted. And Lori and I do our best to give them the very best possible care, love, everything that they could possibly have. Most of our pets, I've got to say, are getting up there in their ages. And two of them, Anna and Lily, I'll just go ahead and identify them. They're our beloved cats. They came down very sick here recently. One had a kidney failure. The other one had something else was wrong with her. I believe it was going to, I'm not even really in a position to talk about it all that much right now. She had heart disease and an upper thyroid infection. And it really tore us up. We had to put those cats down. And, it was just like back to back within a week of each other. And, we're having a hard time getting by. And you can understand why it took me a little bit here to get back behind the microphone again. And, some of our other pets are, I don't want to say they're doing really, really good, but, there's going to come a time, and I think every pet owner understands what I'm talking about. It's something we don't want to talk about. It's something we don't want to admit. But there is going to come a time in our lives when we're going to have to say goodbye to our beloved four-legged friends. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to take some time. We're going to be thinking about them a lot, and we're going to be wondering, is there something we could have done better for them? It's just a fact of life. That's just the way it is. Would I change anything that I'm doing right now? No. I am more than happy that I adopted them. I'm more than happy that I had them in my life and in my family. And that's just the type of people we are. I know a lot of campers who are pet owners, and they're very, very good people. And take care of your pets. Make sure that they get the proper veterinary care that they need at least once a year. Take them in for a checkup and make sure that their health is good. Feed them the best possible food you can and give them all the love that you possibly can give them. That's just what we do as pet owners, what we do as campers. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day weekend to each and every one of you. And what have you got planned this weekend? I hope the weather is holding up a lot better for you wherever you're at. Right here in the metro Atlanta area, we had a major thunderstorm come through here about 6 o'clock this morning. It lasted a couple of hours. I know we've got some campgrounds in the area. I know the campgrounds are full this weekend, and it really wasn't the best type of an atmosphere to be in for Memorial Day camping. One of the things I like about Memorial Day is the fact that more and more people, it seems, as every year goes by, are taking more time out to go camping. Instead of leaving on a Friday and coming back on a Sunday, a lot of folks are actually leaving out on a Thursday and coming back on a Tuesday, making a 5-day event out of it. I think that's great. Wherever you're at, I hope the weather is holding up. This is the type of a season right now where the campgrounds are, like we say, they're pretty full wherever you're at. If you plan on getting out sometime this weekend and you're just looking for a place to go camping, you may be out of luck. You may have to go way north. You may have to go into the wilderness somewhere where it's not very heavily populated and there's some small campgrounds. They may have some openings. But just don't sit around and watch TV all weekend. That's gonna really ruin your entire weekend if you do that. What you may want to do is set up your tent in your backyard. If you have a little spot like I have, and I talked about this on the show before, I've got a little secluded area that I set up camp, and I've got a tent set up back there right now. And this is a great way to go camping. If the weather's holding up for you, you can go out there and, take the kids out. Just get them outdoors. Have a little bit of fun. And if you don't want to do that, at least break out the barbecue grill tomorrow. Have some friends over to the house. Just the other day, I went to the grocery store and I loaded up the cart. I bought all kind of good things, burgers, hot dogs, ribs, you name it. And we're going to have a cookout sometime tomorrow, weather permitting, of course, because the last I heard, they're talking about a 60% chance of rain here in the metro Atlanta area. I hope the rain just holds off until the holiday is over. It can rain all at once then. But, for a lot of folks who are camping right now, I wish you the very best. I hope you have a good time. And if you're camping, make sure you get out and enjoy yourself. Take a hike. Make sure you get out to enjoy some of the activities such as the Memorial Day related events. If you have a national cemetery in the area, remember, Memorial Day is about remembering. And there probably are going to be a lot of events taking place, some ceremonies, some parades, and things like that. If you get an opportunity and you're close by and you want to participate and see some of those activities, the kids will love it. Take them along with you, okay? On today's program, we're going to be talking about camping and politics. Those two topics clash with each other. And it's something you really ought to stay away from anytime you're camping. And I'll tell you why that is. If you're an old-timer like myself, and I shouldn't be saying that. I really try to keep myself feeling young at heart. But if you've been around a while and you've engaged in the election process, no more than going out and casting your vote anytime election day rolls around. It doesn't matter if it's a local election, state election, federal, whatever. You're doing your part. That's one of the wonderful things that we have to enjoy, the freedoms in this nation, is to elect the people that we decide want to serve our country, whether it be locally, nationally, or by state, for that matter. In the real world, political discussions are everywhere today, unlike they were many, many years ago. A lot of cases today, political discussions are leading to disagreements. As I'm talking about this, I'm sure there are a lot of you that are thinking in your head, wow, he's making sense. That's happening exactly where I am. It's happening in my workplace. It's happening in my community. It's happening in my area. When I was growing up, I had some individuals that I looked at very carefully and decided who I was going to vote for and who I was not going to vote for when I went to the polls to cast my ballot. And I would have political conversations with individuals that I know and probably some who think along the same political lines as me. And of course, I'm not going to get into my political affiliations or anything. That's really not important. But you got to ask yourself, do political comments and discussions in today's day and age belong at camp? If you're anyone like myself, you probably are saying absolutely not. You think of the environment around us today. Think about the many political topics that are, and I am using this term very, very direct, polluting our society. You can talk about any number of political topics, and it can really get under people's skin. It can really get people fired up in today's day and age. Think about some of these for a moment. You've got the immigration debate. You've got the deportation debate. The presidential election. When did we last elect a president? What was it, 6 months ago? Today, that is still a real hot button issue. You have the presidential political appointments. People are debating that. Tax reform, the travel ban, school choice, the health care debate, which is going to be ongoing for who knows how long, the border wall, sanctuary cities, First and Second Amendment. Those are several hot button issues that people are discussing just about everywhere you turn today. You don't have to sit on your sofa at home and watch it on TV. All you have to do is walk out the front door and there it is. A lot of these discussions are entering the workplace and have been doing so for a long time. In some cases, they have gotten so bad where the employer, the boss, had to step on in and say, hold on a second right here. Yes, you're free to talk about these issues if you want to, but when it's affecting our bottom line, when it's affecting the job and the job isn't getting done, then yes, okay, the boss has to step on in and make some decisions and has to divide some people up. There are people who are really at odds with each other over a lot of these political topics. The Happy Camper Radio Show, as you know, is heard all around the world. If you live right here in the U.S., where the show is based, we have survived a very contentious and brutal presidential election. I had no idea who was going to become president on election night. I don't think anybody did. Some people had their thoughts on one candidate. People had their thoughts on another, and they're saying, yes, this is going to be the candidate. This is the one who's going to win. And when the other party lost, things got real ugly. I never expected that. I know the topics were very contentious, like we say, and people had their own viewpoints, which they're entitled to. And, you know, the problem is when people can't get along, when they get into arguments and get into terrible disagreements over political issues, something is terribly wrong. Presidential politics, like we say, have affected the workplace. They've affected our social lives, even close personal friendships. Do you know anybody who was close personal friends and that friendship had been severed because of politics? That is terrible. I hate to see any friendship break up for any reason whatsoever. But when politics are the leading cause of people's friendships being broken up, yeah, I think we really need to stop and sit back and take a look for a moment, take a breather, and say, wow, some changes got to be made somewhere. 5 or 6 months after the presidential election, this country, I'm sorry to say, remains extremely divided. I don't know if there's going to be any change in that anytime soon. I've never seen anything like it in all my years. Political commentaries, you can catch it on the news. I'm talking radio and television, the newspaper, magazines. That can be found in social media. If you're a social media buff and you're constantly, running to your iPhone or your smartphone and checking on Twitter, checking on Facebook and things like that, you're going to find it there. And even when you don't have your media devices with you, all you have to do is walk into a restaurant, a bar, a bowling alley, or a nightclub somewhere, even out on the street. You're going to find political discussions everywhere you turn. I would like to think that life is a little more important than that. And there's many other things you can do and things you can enjoy besides engaging in politics. You've got to remember this, folks. When we go camping, if you're into camping just like I am, and it's one of those issues I really take to heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this show. But when you go away to go camping, these are the things that you are trying to get away from. So why try to bring them into your campground with you? Why try to bring politics in any shape or form into your camping environment? Those are things you really need to stay away from. Now, if you're somebody who is real sensitive about the political climate, and some people really are, like I just mentioned, some of those issues, we could talk about them day and night if this was a political talk show, which it's not. But if you bring one of those discussions into camp, stop and think for a moment just how far that topic can go before it can really get out of control. When I'm at a campground, I don't know the person to the right or the left of me or to the front or the back of me. But I try to make friends with everybody as soon as I get to camp. I love to meet and greet. I love to invite everybody over to my campsite. Chances are I'm going to have more firewood than anybody else does because I'm usually one who enjoys sitting by the fire, even though I should really get out and hit the hiking trail and do some things every now and then, maybe lose a few pounds. But I've done that before. I've been there, done that, and I love to sit around the campfire. I talk about that all the time. And I don't like to sit there by myself. I'm going to feed the fire. I'm going to feed myself. But at nighttime, when everybody's relaxing, everybody's having a good time, if I see some folks that are just sitting around and looking like they're bored half out of their mind, I'm going to invite them over to my campsite. I want to get to know them. I like to get to meet people and think about some of the things we can talk about while we're at camp. If you have somebody you've never met before, you want to know a little bit about them. You want to know a little bit about their history, where they've been. Maybe they've been to some campgrounds you've never even heard of before. They're probably from out of state. They probably have some information that you would just love to share. I love taking a lot of pictures too. I'm a meet and greet type of a person. And maybe one of these days, each and every one of us will get to meet somewhere at a campground. I don't know. Who knows? All right. But every camping trip should be centered around building long-lasting friendships and memories for you and your family. Campgrounds are a great place to meet people and share something in common. Special bonds and great friendships are often created in these magical environments. Think about that for a moment. Think about the many campers you've met over the years and the conversations you've had with them around the campfire. Just about anywhere at the campground, you have an opportunity to meet people and take in a little bit of information about them and share a little bit of information about yourself with them. Chances are you're never going to see these individuals again, but those long-lasting friendships and memories will last a lifetime. Take a lot of pictures, take a lot of videos. I've got a scrapbook. I've got tons of pictures in boxes that I can go back and look and say, wow, I remember those folks. And I remember what we talked about. Wow, we had a lot of things in common. Why bring politics into the conversation, especially in today's political environment the way it is? You don't want to do that, folks. There are great things you can talk about while at camp. Maybe some camping techniques, discussions that are always positive and upbeat. Those are the type of conversations you want to engage in. It's never a good reason to taint the climate with unnecessary political talk. Political debates can lead to disagreements. They can lead to heated arguments, unnecessary stress, and if you deal with this on a day-in, day-out basis, it can also lead to heart disease. In rare situations, very rare situations, there will be physical confrontations. Do these happen at camp? I hate to say this, folks, but before I started this particular episode, I went and did a little bit of research online. I did a little Google search, putting some keywords in there. And I have read some news articles about physical confrontations at camp. And under no circumstances whatsoever should this happen. Remember, everybody goes camping for the same purpose, to get away from this garbage, to get away from the political talk, to get away from the stress and the activities of everyday life that constantly bring us down. Camping should bring out the very best in everybody. The last thing anybody would want, anybody should even think about, is getting into some sort of a physical confrontation to the point where you're getting ejected from the campground and being instructed not to come back. That's the last thing you or anybody else should ever want to do. I don't think when you go camping, you're going to run into a campground owner, a private campground owner that is going to engage in a political discussion. They're not there for that purpose. These people are engaged in hospitality. That's their life. This is their lifestyle. This is their livelihood. You got to keep in mind, too, that even though they may not be talking politics, they probably have their own ill feelings of certain government regulations that they are forced to contend with in running a campground. Inspections, regulations that have to be met. There are a lot of things that, I'm not a campground owner, but I'm just shooting some ideas here at the top of my head, that if I ever walked in their shoes, what I would be faced with anytime I was running a campground. Certain things you have to do, certain things you need to stay away from. And there's a lot of political things going on in their mind, too. But they're not going to discuss it with their guests. They're there to make sure that every guest, every single guest, young and old, are there to have a wonderful time. Your campground owners are not going to want to talk politics. That's the last thing they want to even get involved in. So I wouldn't even bring it up if you are going to a campground and you walk in the front door and meet these folks for the very first time. Stay away from political conversations altogether. Also, while you're there, don't rage a war with your fellow campers. If you're the type of a person who loves talking politics, save it for the office, save it to wherever you typically talk those type of things. Do you have political statements written all over your vehicle or your passenger vehicle? I'm talking your car, your van, your RV, your motorhome, your travel trailer, your fifth wheel, your pop-up camper. Do you have bumper stickers all over them and there's political statements written on them? It might be a good idea to take a look at them very carefully and ask yourself, could these statements cause problems when I show up at the campground? Because not everybody's going to think the way you are. There's a lot of folks up there at any particular campground that are going to have different political views, and some things are better left at home. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Many years ago, when I bought my truck camper, I'm going to go back into the 1990s now, long time ago, I had a political bumper sticker that I thought was kind of cute. And I went and slapped that bumper sticker on the back door of my truck camper. So the person traveling behind me, no matter what stretch of roadway I was on, was going to see it. It was going to be right there in front of them. And even though it was kind of funny back then, probably some people looked at it and laughed. Today, if I had that bumper sticker on the truck, if I had it on the back door of my truck camper, I would be worried about somebody taking a brick and throwing it through the back window of my truck camper. In today's day and age, people get very, very upset. If you have those type of stickers on your vehicle and you're bringing them into camp, you could be stirring the pot. It's not a good thing to do. And when I put this bumper sticker on my truck, or should I say on my truck camper, I one day drove the truck camper to work, because I was going to camping later on that night, and I already had the camper on, so it was Friday, and I was all set to go. Everything was packed up, and I was ready to rip out the door at 5 o'clock that afternoon. Well, what ended up happening was somebody in the parking lot who works in the same company as I did saw that bumper sticker and became offended by it. Now, there was nothing foul, anything, no bad language or anything on it, but it took a shot at a well-known senator back then, one that half the public liked and half the public did not. And people got very worked up by what was written on this bumper sticker. And somebody went in and complained to the boss. And of course, the boss called me into the office and asked me about it. And he had no problem with it, but the problem was it was stirring conflict within the work environment. Nobody came directly to me and says, hey, I'm offended by what I see on the back of your truck camper. No, they went in and complained right to the boss. Think about the comments and think about the complaints that could be registered in the event you show up at a campground today with a bumper sticker or some sort of a message, a political message on your pickup truck or on the back of your RV, and the problems it could create. Here in the South, I'll give you another example. In many rural Southern communities, some residents still display the Confederate flag. A lot of people don't like the Confederate flag, but if you go into some of these rural communities in South Georgia, people still display them on their homes, on their vehicles, and a lot of these controversial items, symbols or flags or whatever they are, should be left at home. And that includes the clothing too. There's a lot of people walking around today with, political statements on their clothing, and it creates problems. Keep those items at home. Keep them away from the campground. Remember why you're going camping. You're there to have fun. You're there to have a good time with family and friends. That's exactly what you want to do. Campers come from all walks of life. Because they may think different than you do does not make them a bad person or a bad camper. And it doesn't make you a bad person or a bad camper because of the way you think. Remember, anytime you go camping, you control the discussion and the direction it goes, especially when you have people coming to your particular campsite. If you're the campsite host, I love people having come to my campsite. I'm going to be talking about anything besides politics. I'm going to invite you on over. I'm going to invite you to have some hot chocolate. I'm going to share the marshmallow sticks. I'm going to invite you to participate in a sing-along. Don't look for me to start singing, but I can tell you this much. If you've got musical talent, let it all out whenever you come to my campsite. You can impress everybody else around the camp. Never allow routine discussions to go down the political path. If you see another camper showing off their political attire, avoid saying anything. That's the best thing you can do. Do not engage in discussions that will lead to hostile situations. If their behavior becomes offensive, notify the campground host or management right away. It's very unlikely this is ever going to happen. Remember, camping is all about having fun. It's all about taking your family out and enjoying yourself. Memorial Day weekend, this is a great time to get out and relax. Let all the political discussions, everything like that, stay at home. You'll feel a whole lot better about yourself. It's time now for our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show.
Happy Camper Radio. Happy Camper Radio.
And on this week's show, we're going to take you to Kimball Bend Park in Texas. Kimball Bend Campground is located on Whitney Lake off the main channel of the Brazo River in central Texas. Over 2 million people visit Whitney Lake each year to enjoy a plethora of outdoor recreation and scenic beauty that the lake provides. Fishing, boating, swimming, canoeing, kayaking are very popular activities on the river and downstream at Whitney Lake. Anglers can fish for a variety of bass, crappie, catfish. Visitors enjoy hiking the Chisholm Trail, a historic route followed by upward of 10 million cattle as they traveled northbound from southern Texas to Kansas and adjacent destinations between, get this, 1867 and 1880s. It crosses through the campground at several historic structures. Always like a little bit of history anywhere I go. This is a year-round campground. It offers 35 sites with water and electric hookups. Amenities include flush toilets, showers, drinking water, and a dump station. A lot of good activities and amenities are right there on their homepage, and I'll have a link to it on the Happy Camper Radio homepage all week long. Be sure to check out the Know Before You Go items. Also, remember, don't move firewood. Protect your forest from these tree-killing pests by buying your firewood locally and burning it on site. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org or click on the link at happycamperradio.com. If you're looking for a great place open year-round, if you're traveling through Texas and you're trying to find that perfect campground for you and your family, consider Kimball Bend Park. It is our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show.
Skip Huber. HappyCamperRadio.com.
And of course, if you have a campground that you would like for us to feature on the program, get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. Make sure you include a link to the campground website. Well, folks, that's all the time I have for this edition of the Happy Camper Radio Show. I'm so glad to be back behind the microphone with you again. We've got a wonderful camping season ahead of us. A lot of great stories to tell. Remember, friends, every pet deserves a loving home. Do exactly like I did. Visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. You can find us online anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip, I am a happy camper, and no question about it, my friends, I'm going to do my best to make a happy camper out of you. Talk to you again real soon. You're listening to Happy Camper Radio.
Happy Camper Radio.